This is the story of how I got into wrestling. And I was working at this club called Crazy Horse Saloon. And I was a bouncer, doorman, manager. Back then, man, you did it all as in one person. So I was doing that, and they were filming a movie here called Over the Top. And that was an arm wrestling movie with Sylvester Stallone. A lot of people probably remember it, called Over the Top. But what you don't know is a lot of those guys that were in that movie, they were wrestlers or have wrestled or arm wrestlers, but most of them had something to do with wrestling. And then, man, mind you, at that time, dude, I am jacked, dude. I still got a little bit of something, but back then, I'm 25, 26 years old, as strong as a mule, an ox, man, crazy. And these guys would come into the bar, right? People like Scott Norton and some other names. And they would see me, and they're like, dude, there wasn't many black guys back then that were fully covered in tattoos, you know, that looked the way that I did. And so they're like, you got to get into wrestling. You got to get into wrestling. You got to try this, bro. And I'm like, you know what, man, I'm not really into the wrestling. Back then, believe it or not, the cool thing was roller derby. That's right, man. Roller derby was the cool thing. Wrestling was second. And people used to say, why'd you get into wrestling? I used to tell them because I didn't know how to skate, so I couldn't roller derby. But anyway, these guys would talk to me, and I'm just a monster, man. And they're like, you got to get into this wrestling, bro. We know some friends. If they see you, and you seem like a crazy son of a gun anyway, man. So we made a couple calls. We called this guy in New Jersey. They flew me out to New Jersey. As soon as they seen me, man, without even seeing what type of athletic ability I had, they're like trying to sign me to contracts and stuff. We get started. At the time, I'm doing pretty good. I got a house. I got some cars and stuff. And so we sell some stuff, and I moved to New Jersey. And this is the funny part, man, is that most wrestling schools, you're probably in there 6 months to a year, and you're in there grinding every day, every day. And what happened is, I went to this wrestling school, and the wrestling school was called the Monster Factory in New Jersey. And I was so different, I was so unique, that within maybe 5-6 weeks, Jerry Lawler sees me. Jerry the King Lawler. Yeah, that's right. Jerry the King Lawler sees me, man. He signs me to a contract. Mind you, I have never, ever actually had a wrestling match. So they fly me to Memphis. I settle in. I'm under contract now. And I have my very first match ever against Jerry the King Lawler on a Monday night in Memphis, Tennessee. And unless you're a wrestling fan, you have no idea how big that is, man. And to beat him in the middle, 1, 2, 3, it just set off my career. I ran through my little program with Jerry the King Lawler, and then they brought in this guy. They didn't have anybody for me to work with, so they brought in this tall, redheaded kid. I can't think of his name. He became a wrestler in the WWE, man. Undertaker. You guys might have heard of him. But back then, see, the Undertaker, his name was the Master of Pain, and my name was Soul Taker. And they brought him in to wrestle against me, but we ended up becoming really good friends and then becoming a tag team called Death Express. A lot of people don't know that. The Master of Pain and the Soul Taker, man, we're doing our thing. But this led to that. Mark went to Germany, or Mark went to Japan, I went to Germany. We just kept following each other till we both ended up in the WWF. And even though I haven't had the career that man has, not many have, and he's super duper cool dude and still is one of my best friends today. But I've had a pretty good career, man, with all types of ins and outs in betweens, action figures, championship belts, Hall of Fame. Man, I've had a cool career. I can't wait to tell all these stories, man. You gotta stay tuned and check me out. You know, we talk about how things have changed in different generations and how things move on and you know, progress. But when I came in, I came in at the best time. I came in at the end of the Hulk Hogan's and the Ted DiBiase's and the Ric Flair's, and even though he's still the Woo Man and still doing his thing, they were all at basically the end of their career, Macho Mans, and it was so cool to be able to come in, and I've been watching these guys as a kid, dude, and to actually be on the same level as them and wrestle against them, I mean, that was super, super cool. But how different things changed. When I came in, I was at the end of the old school ways, but I'm an old school guy, so I fit right in. But you know what people don't realize is when I started, and I want to say 80, 87, 88, there was no cell phones. There was no pagers. There was no laptops. There was no computers. There was none of that stuff. And so every night, the whole card, we might not hang out together, but you either went to a country bar or you went to a strip club. And that's just how it was. And most of the time, we only went to country bars when there weren't no strip clubs. And the reason that we went to strip clubs is because we're on TV. Unlike football, unlike football where they wear a helmet and stuff, man, we were on TV so much, and everybody gets to know your face. And even though you might not be making Michael Jordan money, people still recognize you, man, because you're on TV 3-4 times a week. You're on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, Monday night, Thursday night. You're on so much that people really recognize you. So anyway, back to the story. So one night we're all at the club, and it's 1, 2 in the morning, and we're coming back, and all of a sudden we get into the hotel room. Now we get into the hotel, and we're walking down, and all of a sudden we hear, "Oh yeah, give it to her! Come on, do it harder! Come on, put it on her!" And I was with Taker and I think Bradshaw, and we're like, "What the hell is going on in that room, man? They're having an orgy in there. All right, man. What the?" And I could hear D'Lo's voice. I could hear Edge and Christian. I could hear Val Venus, Prince Albert. And I'm like, man, these guys are really giving it to somebody in there. So, I don't remember how we got in, but we get into the room expecting to see an orgy of naked women and naked guys and all type of stuff going on. You know what we seen? We seen a bunch of guys playing video games, making all this noise. Like they were having this big orgy, they're playing video games. And we knew nothing about video games, and that was one of the hardest things for me to accept, that somebody would rather play video games than go to a strip club and be active in that nonsense. And it was just hard to understand, but that was the thinking of the new guys coming in, man. And because we as kids weren't introduced to that stuff, so it was kind of weird to us. But that was just a weird situation, man, to think that you're going to run across something that you didn't, and to have that, man. But that's just one of the stories.